Did you ever wonder who the person behind some of the animations or special effects in certain movies are? Perhaps you've been exposed to the name, but if you haven't, Phil Tidbit or Tippett, not sure how you pronounce it correctly, it might be Tippett, is one of the most renowned special effects, stop motion specifically, artists in film history. Now, I don't say that likely in any way, shape, or form. I mean that truthfully. When you're talking about stop motion and you think about some of the bigger movies, this is the guy that's been involved in them. He's the guy behind almost all the animation and stop motion stuff that you see in Star Wars, all the three original Star Wars films, Jurassic Park, RoboCop. Like, this is the guy they went to for a lot of films. He even did smaller things like Willow, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Howard the Duck, Coneheads, Starship Troopers. This guy has been behind some of the better films with the best special effects that you could see out there. One of the biggest ones probably being Jurassic Park, which I think he garnered a couple awards for, if I'm not mistaken. I think he got like an Academy Award for it, for the best visual effects artistry in a film. So he's not a name that you mess with, but he's also an artist, and he has, the passion for what he does, and he does great with all the films that he has, hands on with. He's very well known, and there's a huge community of people who follow him for that reason. Like I said, he's been involved in like the three original Star Wars films, which date back to the late 70s, and those films kind of got him rolling into everything. And as a couple of years progressed, he started doing his own project, which would be this film from 2021, Mad God. Now, Mad God is a film that's 30 years in the making. Stop motion is not an easy task, and it's not for everybody, and very few people have the talent for it. You've probably seen a lot of people on like TikTok or Instagram that do it with action figures, and I guarantee you that takes them a couple of days at minimum. I would say weeks, depending on how long the clip is, but that takes at least days to kind of complete, to make 30 seconds or 60 seconds worth of the videos you see. So when you think about it, took them 30 years to do this, while it also just being a passion project. Like, Phil Tidbit didn't do this as, something he was going to get, recognized for. He is the director, writer, producer. He is everything for this film. And there was nothing really backing him up. He sort of just kind of released this on his own. He, at some point, started a GoFundMe to get it done. And while he was doing all of that, he was also still doing films. He was still getting paid to do films throughout the time frame because that was his essential job. And this was his side hustle in a way. It was something he was doing outside of his normal work. And again, you're talking about a dude who's been involved in films since the 70s, and he's gone all the way up to as recently as the most recent Jurassic Park films. What was his last stop motion thing, I want to say? Probably recent years. I know he had stuff to do with Twilight, but I don't think a lot of that was stop motion. It had to have been the 90s, maybe? Because maybe like stop motion isn't that big of a deal these days, even though I still love it, and I love it when it pops up in films. So when I saw this idea of Mad God, I looked into it a bit. I started getting really excited about it, and I started realizing who it was by. And when you look it up, he's literally everything. He designed the characters, he wrote the story, he did all the editing and the cinematography. This was something that he wanted to do outside of anything else, and he didn't care who was going to sort of help him with it. It cost him a lot. When you're talking about a person who's doing it by himself, it cost him about 150 grand. However, it did go into theaters for a short period of time, and it made, I think, triple that money back, I believe, or at least double that money back. So that's a good thing for him, and it's good to see that this got him the recognition for being this 30-year-long passion project. And truthfully, when I watched it and I sat through it, I was mesmerized by how good it was, how flawless the animation is. And it is also a mixture of some live action in a way. There's like one actor I mean, I'll be honest. If I was to look at this as a person who didn't care about stop motion and I was just trying to watch a film, I don't get the story. I'm not gonna lie. I really was not looking for this to be this tremendous film that's gonna break barriers or shock me to the core because of its awesome story. I don't 100% get the story, and I haven't really gone deeper into it because I do just appreciate it for what it is. And that's where my love for it comes, because when you're talking about an almost 90-minute film of nothing but stop motion. Remember, I said it took a couple of days for somebody, at least, minimum. Let's say a week. Let's say it takes a week for somebody to do a 60-second stop motion fight scene between, Stone Cold and Captain America. Because I've seen that clip. Captain America getting stunned by Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they're both super bendable figures. I've seen that on TikTok before. So let's say that person takes a week to do all of that. All of the stop motion, all of the editing, to get it where it's a perfect 60-second loop. That's them doing that full time. He did this on the weekends. You know what I'm saying? He got volunteers to come in and help him that weren't that good at it. They just loved what his idea was, and they tried to help him. So on the weekends, he was trying to do that. So if you take that idea, if it takes 7 days and you're not doing it in a row, it takes a month to do 60 seconds. Minimum a month to do 60 seconds. And who knows if he did it every month? Who knows if he was able to do it every weekend? He legitimately started this in around 1990, whatever year RoboCop 2 came out. That's when he started it. And he didn't have a lot of backing. He was doing it really on his own. So I guarantee you those first 10 years was very much a hogwash. Like, he did his best, and it didn't really get that far until, 2000s rolled over. The internet became a big thing, and he was able to, do a GoFundMe and get some backing from some people and really be able to push out what the fans sort of wanted when they kind of became aware of what he was doing and they wanted to be a part of it. So once he got that rolling, he was able to do a little bit more with it. But let's say the film is 90 minutes long. I think it's less than that. I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes. So what is that? An hour and 20 minutes? 80. So let's say it's 80 minutes long. You got an 80-minute long film. He's been able to do 10 minutes in 10 years. Maybe he's been able to do, let's say he's done 20 minutes in 10 years just on his own, and now he's got backing and he's probably got more access to funds and resources. He's still doing movies. So he's only doing this on the weekends. And who knows if he's able to do it every weekend. He was literally doing this on as much free time as he probably could find himself to do it with. So he's doing maybe a minute a month or a minute every 2 months of consistent, because you also got to think, if it doesn't work, you got to go back and do it again. And stop motion is a crazy long and tremendously difficult process that I can't even fully comprehend. So my time might be off. They might be able to do 3 minutes in a day. But to me, the way that I've seen behind the scenes footage of a lot of these things, Nightmare Before Christmas had a really good little behind the scenes look at how they were doing the stop motion on that, and how they had 40 different little models of Jack's head, seeing them do all of that and needing to switch all that stuff out. It's a difficult process. And this guy did this whole thing on the side, and it's such a visually fantastic film. I loved watching this film from start to front. The horror kind of just comes from the creatures he created and the atmosphere it sets. It's practically silent. There's really not a script, which again is why you don't really get a story from it in a way, at least to me. But a lot of the visuals is where the horror kind of comes in. But it gets also depleted in a way simply because it is stop motion, so there's a certain unrealistic value to it when you realize that it's just clay or it's just puppets, it's toys, it's not real, so it doesn't really affect you as much, but it is still considered a horror film, and if you really like stop motion, this whole film is stop motion front to back, and it's the best stop motion you're going to find out there right now. In this day and age, you don't really see a lot of it, and the fact that he was able to release this now and to get the critical responses it's gotten, I said this in a couple of previous posts before, and I will continue to say it, if you use Rotten Tomatoes as a base, if you use any sort of review aggregator to base your decisions off of, or to see how they do critically or audience-wise, This film is above 90%. I think it's like 92%. Not many films get above a 90%. So fuck the story. Watch it because it's great visually. And if you're able to sit through like some bullshit like Avatar and say the story doesn't matter, it's the visual effects, you can do that with Mad God.